I sit in my hall, in front of the raging hearth. Its logs a cracking conflagration, casting heat and light across the dark stone walls and floor. Shadows twist and leap, painting grotesque shapes on the walls as if mocking my solitude. I sit staring into the flames, their heat refusing to absorb into my bones as the fire dances on my irises. Outside, the snowfall is deep, a blanket of silence smothering the world beyond. I feel more akin to the frozen world under the moon than to the heat radiating around this hall. A towering pine, adorned with ornaments of old, stands sentinel in the corner. Glass baubles gleam like captured moonlight, and ribbons of scarlet silk cascade down its boughs. Candles flicker from golden holders, their flames barely holding against the draughts that seep through the cracks of my ancient abode. On a long table, laden with candles, I prepared a feast for my guest. Platters brimming with venison, wild boar, and suckling pig sit amongst the roasted partridge and fruits of the forest. The aroma of spiced meats and glazed fruits mingles with the faint tang of pine and the ever-present musk of age. It is far more than one person could eat, although I will also partake to maintain the illusion, despite gaining no sustenance from such a repast. Bottles of red wine that I'd laid down over a century ago are covered in dust, their labels faded and curling, but I will break their seal upon her arrival. Wine, at least, is something I can taste, though its effects no longer inebriate me. Above the hall hangs a great wreath, woven of holly and ivy, its red berries glinting like drops of blood against the dark green leaves. The icy breath of the outside world sneaks through the unseen crevices, tugging at the flames of the hearth and causing the wreath to sway gently. A clock chimes the late hour, its deep toll resonating through the stone chamber. I await the sound of the bell upon my door and feel the turmoil running through me. I am hungry, starved. I haven't fed for days. In a usual winter, it is a time of plenty for me, with the cursed sun hiding away for most hours. But this season, I found only slim pickings amongst the criminals and streetwalkers of the surrounding towns. Whilst maintaining my outward nobility, my continued existence has not gone unnoticed. Whispers abound throughout the population of a monster, a killer who drains the blood of his victims. People are wary. I have to be careful to maintain my fiction. On Christmas Eve, however, my invitation to the town's ball proved potentially fruitful. A young maiden named Celestina made my acquaintance. It became clear as the evening wore on that she appreciated my attention, and following a vigorous waltz, she confessed her captivation. Being in such a public place, I could not sate my appetite that evening, but I invited her to my halls for the feast of Stephen. She blushed as she accepted, and I kissed her hand as I departed prior to sunrise. I found Celestina had enchanted me. Her demeanour was unlike my usual fare. In my loneliness since our encounter, her visage lingered in my memory more than the faceless others of my nocturnal prowling. But more than this, my gnawing hunger drove me. Every minute of every hour, I felt it consume me, weaken me, prey on my thoughts. She did not represent my usual victim, but I needed to feed, needed to slake this withdrawal. Contrary to the myth of our existence, I am not a heartless demon, not some undead nightmare in a frock coat. Guilt plays on my mind constantly. I pick my food from the worst of humanity, people that would either not be missed or the world would be better off without. Celestina did not belong in either group, and so I battled my own reasoning and my own sense of propriety in the face of famishment. Providence brought her to the Yuletide Eve party. A young marquess of a distant holding, she possessed the glow of a lady fresh to womanhood. The death of her father left her the most eligible heiress in the vicinity, and she battered away many a suitor before accepting my company. A glint in my eye, she had said. My gaze held age-old wisdom despite my youthful countenance. If she only knew how true her words found their home. She accepted my invitation on a single condition. Our tryst was to remain secret. She claimed the scandal of a visitation to a bachelor without chaperone would be frowned upon. Sensing my opportunity, I accepted in the knowledge that nobody would know her whereabouts when I made my move. Nevertheless, my intention would be to send her to the eternal with feelings of joy and pleasure before the brief, sharp bitterness of a pierced jugular. The jangling of the bell echoes around the chamber. The sound cuts through the oppressive stillness like a blade, sending shivers through me. I drift from my seat to the door, my leather boots making barely a sound upon the stone-flagged floor, and sweep open the wooden portal to my inner sanctum. Celestina appears before me, framed in the night beyond. Snowflakes swirl around her, catching in her hair like tiny diamonds. Her red dress contrasts with the star-filled sky, and her skin sits pale as the ice against her black hair. She wears a sable-lined cloak against the chill, which she slings away from her shoulders at my invitation inside. I take it and hang the soft fabric on the stand, the delicate scent of roses reaching me. Welcome to my home, I say, extending my arm to the table of food. Eat, partake in this feast of Stephen. She moves with such elegance and places her slender fingers upon the table. She picks a blackberry from a plate and looks at me from beneath black lashes as she places it in her mouth. A drop of dark juice clings to her lip, glistening like a bead of garnet. I realize I am caught as a thrall in her presence, and watch on as she picks up a goblet. Shall we? She purrs. I take the nearest bottle and pour the wine before raising my own. The silver touches as we raise a toast, and we sip. The red grape stains our lips as our gaze never falters. Delicious, she states. Torn between desire and hunger, my inward turmoil does not reflect my outward appearance. I maintain my calm aloofness. I expected a lone young woman to be shy, meek even. Yet here she is, commanding my attention. Over the centuries, I have never faced such personal tumult. Shall we dance? I ask. You have no musicians, she states. What shall we dance to? The cold wind and the crackle of the fire, I reply. Her smile is demure as we gather together on the large rug in front of the hearth. She extends her arms to accept my hold, and I move in, our bodies meeting into a perfect V. Arching her neck back and upwards, her neck is presented before me, and my hunger drives me insane. Not yet, I insist. Not yet. We move in circles and in gentle rise and fall. The hall spins, with only her visage in focus. She follows exquisitely, matching my movement with refinement. Ingrained within me is my dance. Years, decades, centuries of the movement of my body, never aging, never harmed. The perfection of time, and she responds with noblesse. Her sophistication born of aristocracy and courtliness. Despite the heat of the flame, not a bead of perspiration mars her beauty. My famished brain begins to implant itself as we turn. I glance at her face as I feel my canines grow and bulge. She is caught in the ecstasy of movement. I sense the growing need to feed. The small part of my brain that retains a human frailty protests, but the ungodliness always wins. My eyes darken and redden with blood. and I unconsciously lick my fangs in anticipation. Love and desire are tearing me apart. I ready to strike, a viper on his prey. Shooting pain grips me, an icicle on my neck, a sting familiar yet unexpected. I continue spinning as the coldness spreads through me, as the dawning hits that I am no longer the hunter, I am the victim. Celestina's teeth on my neck draw a gasp from my lips. Whether from pleasure or pain, I cannot tell. I weaken as my own immortal blood drains from my body, and my eyes begin to darken. But then, with a lascivious gasp, she releases. Her ruby red lips, now almost black with my blood, as it begins to flow down her chin. Her eyes match mine in feral intensity. She moves her neck to one side. "Take what you need, but not a drop more," she says. I need no further persuasion. My bite thrusts through her ivory skin, and I feel the viscous flow overwhelm my senses. This is no ordinary blood I am drinking. This is the blood of a fellow creature. Celestina's blood fills me with her knowledge, as my own did for her. I see her turn centuries ago, accepting the gift of eternal youth while rejecting the curse of the light. I see her enthrall her prey to her will as she moves through the ranks of society, maintaining deceptions of her identity, using men to further her webs with promises of eternity, before they too fall victim to her. But the rumours of a monster in these parts, that feeds on blood, brought her to me. She foresees our future together, a partnership born of desire and power over the unworthy. I finish my meal, and watch as the twin puncture wounds close before my eyes. She turns to face me, and she gives me her true countenance through her eyes. The most unexpected gift of this Christmas season, but the greatest of my long existence. Linking her arm, we move out of the hall. The snow falls heavier now, a shroud to the world beyond. The feast of Stephen has never tasted so sweet.